Man, guess who's back? I said, guess who's back? What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Thanks for everyone clicking on my video. I really appreciate you guys all the time. We're going to get straight into this matchup. Ryan Garcia versus Tank Gervonta Davis. It's a great matchup, let me say. I love the fact that a lot of these fights are going to be made in, well, they're promised in 2023, next year. As you know, Ryan Garcia was the first person to announce that this fight would happen in next year, 2023. I'm excited about it, man. I enjoy watching both these guys fight. You know, you're not going to get a boring snooze fest with these fighters. Ryan Garcia is explosive, probably the quickest hands in boxing. He's got power in both hands. You know, he's got a great right hook. He's got a great left hook to the body. He's so fast that that you can't tell if he's throwing his punch to the body or the head, and by the time you work out where to put your defense, he's hit you. You know, and you're like in this fight that we're watching with Tago just had to keep moving and get out of the way. I actually think Tago did quite well to actually stay out of the way of that power. A lot of people who fought Ryan Garcia get knocked out quickly because they stand their ground too much, and his firepower is just so fast that you actually have to implement a style like Tago. Although a lot of people were, you know, ridiculing Tago for this moving around, not wanting to get involved, I think it was a great tactic for him. Gave him a chance to actually survive. So Garcia has a lot of skills, and he will cause Gervonta Davis some problems. What I should actually say is Garcia has the potential to bring a real problem to Gervonta Davis for a number of reasons. First of all, their dimensions. Ryan Garcia, I think he's listed at 5'10". I'm not sure what Gervonta Davis is listed, but he's definitely shorter than 5'7". I think he's definitely shorter than 5'7". He might be about 5'7", so there is a difference there, massive difference. And visually, with the eye test, you can see that Garcia kind of towers over a lot of the lightweights. Actually, correction, Gervonta Davis is listed at 5'5.5" or something. So basically, you know, he's under 5'6". So there's going to be a huge difference, bigger than what I first expected. But anyway, I don't think this is going to make much of a difference to Gervonta Davis. He's been fighting since he was like 7 years old. I've seen all these amateur fights. Well, not all of them, but I've seen clips of his amateur fights. And he's always been the shorter fighter. So he has a style that's quite adapted. Well adapted to his body structure anyway. You know, he's kind of he's quite elusive with his head movement. He's very fast. He keeps his hands up at the right times. His defense is much better than people think, and I just think that he's not going to be as easy to hit as Garcia. I think Garcia's overestimating himself and underestimating Gervonta Davis slightly, because he thinks that, you know, he's going to be able to hit him at will because he seems easy to hit. But I think Gervonta Davis adapts to his opponent. So that's going to be something that's going to be a test. We really have to see a lot of things, how a lot of things are going to play out in the ring. For me, because of Ryan Garcia's reflexes, and because he knows that he has an advantage in this area. He relies on his speed because he knows that he can get his punch to the target faster and before his opponent. He tends to completely ignore defense. He has his head up in the air every time he fires a shot, which leaves himself right open for counters. Hence the reason why he got countered by he got caught by Luke Campbell. Again, he relies on his reflexes a lot, a bit too much. He doesn't get his hands back in position. His footwork is not great going backwards. There's a few issues that he does where he kind of neglects his defense, and I think it's a habit. A lot of taller fighters have this habit. Fighters that are quite tall, that have fast hands, quick reflexes, they tend to ignore their defense. And the reasons why, I think it's because like they can normally use their reflexes to get out of range. You know, when the punches come in, they lean back and they can just escape that way, but it's not something to rely on. You have to actually get into that whole method of getting your hands up and getting your footwork, not squaring up your feet. Garcia tends to do this quite a lot. Hence the reason why when someone does try to counter him, he leans back because he hasn't actually got the his feet in the correct position to actually negate that issue with his footwork. So he has to either just lean back, and because he's tall, he gets away with it sometimes. He's not going to get away with it for long, to be honest. He's not. And especially against Gervonta Davis, I don't think he's going to get away with this. You know, this leaning back all the time to get out of the way, this neglect of defense, not moving your head off the center line, relying on your reflexes. He tends to just put all his eggs in one basket. You know, he's going to get to the punch before you. He even closes his eyes when he fires his shot sometimes. You know, he's got a few habits, and I feel like some of these habits he have stayed with him throughout the amateurs into the pro game. And I think for him to get rid of some of these things, he needs a few more fights before someone like Gervonta Davis. That's my view. To get rid of to actually be punished for some of these things, because I'm sure his trainer's telling him, you know, oh, keep your head tucked in, because sometimes you see him kind of get his head tucked in. Like, so it's like he's remembering that his trainer is telling him to get his head tucked in, keep his hands up, but he automatically goes back to that style where he drops his hands, he leans back when someone fires a shot. Just a few little bad habits there. I mean, you know, it's kind of normal that people have bad habits, but I personally feel like Gervonta Davis is the more seasoned, skillful fighter. I think Gervonta Davis has got more skills, he's got more angles, he's more aware of danger. Even though he does get hit, he sets up his punches. He's just more sneaky than he seems. If you look at the way Gervonta Davis has knocked out his opponents, you haven't really seen the knockout coming most of the time. You know, he slips to the side, he'll put his hands up, he'll counter. He's very strategic, more strategic than people think, the way he sets up his shots, whereas Garcia seems just a little bit more basic, you know. And the reason why he seems more basic is because he's got this hand speed, because he's got these long arms, because he's got the height. He just relies on that, you know. And I just think that style is gonna be found out against the top guys. I mean, if you look at the way he's knocked out most people, Fortuna and all these people that were quite good fighters, but Fortuna was kind of known for being stopped anyway. But if you look at Luke Campbell was the first opponent that really is rated quite high, and Luke Campbell dropped him because of exactly the reasons that I'm outlining. Luke Campbell had the pedigree enough to find him basically and sit him down. And even in his recent fights, although I'm sure he's been working on some of these flaws, I still see the same flaw, head up in the air, dropping the hands, squaring up the feet. I still see the same thing reappearing in his fights, especially when he's winning. When he's winning and he's really starting to land shots, it gets worse, you know. So I think the fact that he hasn't really been found out, I think that's the reason why he loses to Gervonta Davis. If he loses, I'm saying, that would be the reason. Just underestimating Gervonta Davis's speed, foot speed, and hand speed. When he comes in, he's quite explosive, and I think Garcia's going to underestimate that. Also, I feel like Garcia allows people to get inside of his guard too quickly, too easily. He doesn't read the footwork well, and then when the fighters are right up close to him, he relies on his reflexes to either get out of the way or to throw a check hook or something, and it normally catches his opponent. But you can't rely on that all the time. You can't allow someone as powerful as Gervonta Davis to get close to you, knowing that he can land hooks and uppercuts and all sorts. He's knocked out quick fighters with uppercuts a number of times. And looking at Garcia, he's just right there for one of those uppercuts, one of those hooks on the inside, all the way through the fight. I think he's right there for it, But the question is, Garcia is so quick, he might get there first. And he kind of, that's Garcia's kind of game. He's kind of like, who can get there first, Whereas I think Gervonta Davis is just a little bit more calculated than that. He tends to have no patience as well. He wants to land his shots. He wants to come in. He's quite aggressive. I think he's over-aggressive. With someone like Gervonta Davis is more calculated. He'll take a few punches. He'll go on the back foot. He'll give Garcia a lot of false hope. Garcia might land a shot, and Gervonta Davis will back up, and Garcia will kind of like become more confident. And he just doesn't fight that kind of game where he waits. He's not that patient. I feel like Gervonta Davis will wait until the last round. Gervonta Davis will wait a lot longer than Garcia will wait for the perfect opening. And I think that's going to be a big issue for Garcia. In comparison, if we look at Gervonta Davis here when he was fighting Rolly, just as an example, you can see there's a lot more calculation in Gervonta Davis' work than Garcia. He's not just relying on his speed. It's more like Gervonta Davis implements his fast hands and his speed. He puts them together, his fast feet with his fast hands and the right timing. I think that's the difference. Garcia has good timing, don't get me wrong. He has good timing, but he's only got good timing, at certain points of the fight. He has a good timing when he's attacking. He doesn't have good timing when he's defending or if he's retreating, Whereas I feel like Gervonta Davis, there's just a little bit more thought going into some of his work. If you just watch him here, I know he gets hit. A few times. It's quite a good comparison because Rolly is actually quite a good fighter, although he's a kind of a strange, funny kind of character. He is actually quite a talented fighter, Rolly. And it wasn't easy to lead Rolly into the knockout that he eventually gets. But if you look at the knockout at the end, it's quite calculated. It's like a check hook. It was very fast and the timing was perfect. And if you look at a lot of Gervonta Davis knockouts, it was the same against Gervonta Davis's knockout of, what's the guy called? Santa Cruz. It was quite calculated. Santa Cruz was doing quite well. Santa Cruz was quite fast as well. And Gervonta Davis was just kind of taking his time to set up the punch. Yes, he got hit a few times as well. This is a weakness of Gervonta Davis. Obviously, he has been hit. He did get hit a few times by Rolly. He did get hit a few times by Santa Cruz. But in the end, they all ended in a knockout. And they were all kind of calculated. It wasn't just like he was relying on his speed or his explosiveness. It was kind of like the combination of all of those things with the right timing. And I feel like Gervonta Davis is just a more seasoned fighter. I think being with Floyd Mayweather has helped him a lot. Because if he didn't have Floyd Mayweather, I think he would be more aggressive and neglect his defense more. I think Floyd Mayweather has implemented that defensive responsibility in Gervonta Davis. You can see it in his fighting, the way he will move or keep his hands up, keeps his defense up when he ducks punches, and he just waits. He's just more patient than Garcia. Garcia is used to coming forward, using his reflexes and knocking his opponent out eventually. But Gervonta Davis, as a shorter fighter, as a fighter who has to be more calculated to get on the inside of fighters who always have a longer reach and more height, he's just become more calculated, and it's made him become more seasoned. And I think he's just more experienced as well. He's had more fights. I think he's had 27 fights to Garcia's 23, but he's had a lot of amateur fights. He had a lot of sparring. I think he just seems to be more experienced. But if we watch him with Rolly here, he slips a few times to the left, slips to the right, and he threw that uppercut that he caught Santa Cruz with. If you look at how fast he is at getting out of the way of some of these punches, it's not just offensively, it's also defensively. He's a lot harder to hit. Rolly thought that he'd be easy to hit the way Garcia thinks that Gervonta Davis is going to be easy to hit. And he found out that he wasn't that easy. You know, he did hit him, but he didn't get really that many clean shots. Another thing is Gervonta Davis is a really tough guy. He seems to have a very durable chin, as in he can take a punch. He took a lot of punches here against Rolly. He took punches against Santa Cruz, both quick fighters. He took punches against Pitbull. Garcia, I personally think Garcia, I'm not saying he's got a glass jaw, but I don't think he takes a punch as well as he gives one. I've just got that feeling. Not just because he was dropped by Luke Campbell, but like Gervonta Davis did say in an interview, Luke Campbell can't punch hard. That's not his game. He's not a hard puncher. He hasn't got power. So how was he able to drop Garcia? You know? And it's mainly, I think Garcia doesn't take a punch that well, but also Garcia has a very open guard. So he gets caught by people who've got fast hands, and Gervonta Davis is definitely one of those people. For weaknesses for Gervonta Davis, it's going to be the fact that if he gets hit by someone like Rolly and Cruz and Pitbull, then he's definitely going to get hit by Garcia, and Garcia has more power than all of those, arguably. So that's obviously the question. Personally, I think Gervonta Davis is just the more seasoned, skillful fighter at the end of the day. I mean, when it comes to putting together his punches, he's just a bit more balanced as well. You look at him here, his balance is coming forward. Rolly's throwing a punch. He's balanced when he's going backwards, balanced when he's coming forward. He's constantly adjusting his guard, and he's patient, waiting for the opening, waiting for the opportunity. He's constantly readjusting his foot position, adjusting his distance control, moving his head off the center line. You know, I think he gets hit because he's short and he has to find a way to come in, and so he often gets hit a few times. But for the most part, he takes the punches very well. I think that might be the difference. I think if Garcia lands a shot on Gervonta Davis is more likely to be able to take Garcia's punch as opposed to Garcia taking Gervonta Davis' punch. So we haven't really seen proof of Garcia's chin. The only time Garcia kind of got hit clean was by Campbell, and we saw what happened there. So, as you've probably noticed, I am going with Gervonta Davis to win this bout, if it happens. I think Gervonta Davis will probably win maybe a TKO or KO knockout, probably about the 9th round. 9th round TKO, that's what I'm going with for Gervonta Davis. Once again, guys, I really appreciate everyone who clicked on my video today. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.